Hello, everyone, and welcome to Thursday, August 21st edition of the City of Somerville Urban Forestry Committee meeting. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, this meeting will be held remotely. Usually we start by welcoming any attendees to be promoted to panelists. This gives them a chance to introduce themselves, members of the public, and speak or ask questions or just participate more actively. But we will start with introductions of the members, going in alphabetical order by first name. I think Allie might start us off.
Hi, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. I'm Allie Bernard, and I'm a certified tree keeper and tree enthusiast and associate member of this committee.
I think I'm next. Hi, everyone. I'm Calla Taylor. I'm a youth member of the Urban Forestry Committee, and this is sadly my last meeting.
Hey everyone, I'm David. I'm the tree warden here in Somerville, started in July. So I've been here almost 6 weeks. Arborist, and happy to be here.
Joelle next. Trying to do fast alphabet here.
Estella?
Stella's a visitor.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was waiting. I'm Joelle. I'm a relatively new member of the panel, and I teach a class about urban trees, and I just, love all things plant.
Hi, my name's Luca. I'm currently other youth member of the committee, and I joined a few months ago. Yeah, excited to be here.
I'm Leah. I'm a landscape architect and one of the co-chairs of the Urban Forestry Committee, and excited about all things trees.
Hello, my name is Michael Hendricks. I'm a committee member and tree enthusiast. Happy to be here.
Hi, my name is Tori Antonino. I am an ecological landscaper, which means I take out lawns and put in meadows as often as I can, or mini forests. That's coming along really well. And I'm just grateful to be part of this committee because we're awesome.
I'm Vanessa Bukili, Senior Urban Forestry and Landscape Planner for the city. Love everything about our urban forests, especially when the trees are doing well and look healthy.
All right, so those are our members for today. And I think at this point, we'll invite any visitors, any members of the public to introduce themselves, say hi if they'd like, or just continue watching if you don't feel comfortable introducing yourself.
Lots of people rejoining as panelists.
I'll give everyone a minute to get in that case. All right, if no one wants to introduce themselves, that's totally fine. Do we have any items for housekeeping? I don't see anything on the agenda, but if any members want to raise something, we can.
Thought we were going to be fronted for introductions. I'll just say hi. My name's Alyssa. I'm working on some initiatives with the Somerville Garden Club and one with Green Open Somerville. Just want to get more involved in the green organizations in Somerville.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. Anyone else that we missed?
Hi, everyone. I'm Suzanne Warner. I live in Spring Hill, and I'm excited to be more involved with the Urban Forestry Committee. Thanks.
Thank you.
My name's Ann Ryan, and I live at Cobble Hill. And the trees at Cobble Hill are my major interest, preserving them.
All right, thank you for being here. With that, we can move to resident concerns. So if any residents have anything that they'd like to raise to the committee, now is your time to do so. Go ahead.
We have one for some of our attendees, Ken and Bob. But it's a rather big one about a private tree removal. So I will be last. If anyone wants to go first, I'll introduce their topic.
And were you looking to speak? Yes.
Yes. My understanding is that the city is allowing Corcoran Jennison to maintain the current parking lot, which lies parallel to Washington Street, until December. And I don't understand. From then on, the city's going to block off the area that it owns, apparently. And Corcoran Jennison is expected to create a new parking space for the 37 parking spaces that are going to be blocked off. I don't understand the thinking behind that process. And I also don't understand who is paying for what. And most of all, there are about 12 tall pine trees that lie along Washington, very close to the curb on the sidewalk on Washington Street. And they are part of the 10-degree temperature difference between Cobble Hill and Washington Street in the summertime. So I'd like to know if anyone knows more about what is happening.
That's not something I have specific knowledge on. Does anyone from the city side know any more details?
I have never heard of this, so no information. See David shaking his head too, so news to us. Sorry.
It's all right.
This is like the parking lot of 90 Washington then?
Well, we have several parking lots, but it lies between 84 Washington and 74 Washington. 74 is the building that runs along Washington Street. And it's a parking lot to the west of 74 and to the north of 84, if that helps you at all. And it is lined by this row of pine trees, and that is among the 87 trees that are threatened by the development at 90 Washington. So that's my, thank you.
Yes, now that I'm seeing it, I actually do know what you're talking about.
Yeah. You're circling it. Yes. And you can see the pine trees are, as you can see, along here. And there is discussion of an underground parking lot being built. What I don't understand is that the city has not yet decided, apparently, how it's going to sell the property and if it's going to sell the property. That hasn't even been passed. But Cobble Hill is being asked to develop a parking space. I'll show you where. If you see below the red dot, there's a row of bushes, and a relatively large green open space. No,
Here?
there,
Here.
you got it. Yes, that's where they're saying this set of cars has to go over here. And I as I said, I don't understand, since the property hasn't even been sold yet, and if it is going to be sold, why it is important to start this process now. And I'm very concerned because the berm and the trees are still not protected by any agreement whatsoever.
I do have a little bit of information then about this. I do think the city is trying to sell 90 Washington, but I'm not sure exactly how, and I don't think the city knows how yet, like which pieces or what protections can be put on any part of it.
Yeah.
But as just trying to loop different departments in and see what the process is, I did have a meeting regarding this parking lot situation, that this is owned by the city but used by Cobble Hill at the moment. So is there a way to find this number of parking spaces on the Cobble Hill property itself?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, for whatever future scenario may happen.
Yeah.
And various ideas were asked. So the meeting had different departments in just to know what the processes were. And I did make sure that everyone in that meeting was aware of the strong importance of preserving trees as much as possible, and that we have been, as the Urban Forestry Committee, have been promoting
Yes.
preservation of trees, and that we would not likely support the removal of private trees without paying the mitigation fees that any other private property would have to pay. So removing any trees over 8 inches in diameter, unless, something strange happens, if the trees are healthy, that property is subject to the mitigation fees of
Okay.
everyone else. So that may deter the desire of the property owner to cut down the trees. And I did also reiterate, like, you and your groups really want to preserve the trees there. So the residents of Cobble Hill don't want to lose the trees. So maybe
Yep.
that'll have an influence or not, but I did at least convey that information.
Would it be helpful? I just ordered a caliper, and I was planning to start here and measure the trees and try to figure out their replacement value. Would that be of any interest to you?
That sounds great. I mean, it's always nice to know and can be useful for the owner. If you can identify where all the trees that are 8 inches diameter and bigger, then we will have an idea of which ones would need mitigation if they were to be removed. So that I see as the most directly useful information, but it's always interesting to know what a tree's replacement value is anyways.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Anne.
Thank you, Anne. Are there any other resident concerns, or should we have Vanessa present the one that she mentioned earlier? Tori?
Hi, yep, a couple things. And it might be of interest to, if it makes sense, to let not just your ward counselor know or loop them in. I think it's Matt, but also an at-large. It's a contested it's a contested race this year, and which gives them more inspiration to attend to people. So Kristen Strazo makes sense to me because she's an assembly or whoever you feel comfortable working with.
Yeah.
And the other one is just an announcement. Green and Open Somerville has been having invasive removals, and the next one is going to be black swallowwort, and I'll put it in the chat. It's going to be this Saturday at, one second. Oh, this Saturday at 10 a.m. on 54 Belmont. So, and you don't really, I don't think you need anything. Bring gloves, weeding tools, and sunscreen, and then we'll have like snacks afterwards. So, thanks.
Lovely. Thank you, Tori.
All right, shall I move on to mine?
Yes, please.
I'm going to, Bob's an attendee, so I'm going to allow you to talk, Bob, but just a minute while I introduce, if that's all right. So we have a tree that is on private property, so subject to the private tree removal permit process. It's a large 22-inch pine tree that's on one property on 14 Elmwood, but overhangs almost entirely on a budding property at 5 Gorham. And the tree is healthy, so would generally need mitigation, but the way that it's leaning, it can't really be pruned without compromising the tree. And in the meantime, it's sapping all over the 5 Gorham Street, Bob's property. There's just sap everywhere. Malik went to see the tree itself. There's sap everywhere and it's really destructive. So I'll let Bob speak more to that. But Malik invited him to come to to our meeting to discuss it, because to discuss the potential for a waiver from the private tree removal permit process. Without a waiver, it's a 22-inch diameter pine tree, so it would be subject to up to like $13,000 of mitigation fees or replanting 22 inches of tree. So yeah, I'm gonna allow you to speak. Bob, Ken, if you want to speak too, just raise your hand.
Before we do that, can we get a visual on it? I typed it in.
Okay.
Thanks.
I don't have a great picture of the tree itself. Let me see.
It was 5 Gorham.
Yeah, but the tree is like in between in the backyard, 14 and 5, so I can share. Green 2.
This one.
Share. Oh, sorry. I saw you were doing it as I pushed share. So this is 5 Gorham and it's 14 Elmwood is where the tree actually is. It's probably this one, but I'll let Bob confirm if that's correct. This pine tree in the back. Does that look right?
Can you hear me, Vanessa?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Yes, it's kind of hidden in this view behind Ken's house. But it straddles his property and my property at 5 Gorham Street. And like you said, most of the canopy hangs over on into my backyard. And as noted, I sent you an email and also Malik over the last few weeks with pictures about what this tree is actually doing to my backyard. And Malik was kind enough to come out and take a look, and so he witnessed the damage that is being done. And as I mentioned to you in my email, the pine sap is essentially ruining our patio furniture, our deck. It is getting on our skin. It's getting into our hair. It gets stuck to the bottom of our shoes. We walk into the house and we're bringing the sap inside the house so that when we walk around, we stick to the floor. So the tree is causing great damage, and we can't even have guests in our backyard. Friends and family we were hoping to see this summer, but we cannot have tree sap raining down on top of them. So I have been in contact with my neighbor, Ken. I'm not sure if he's on this call also, but and Ken and I are in 100% agreement that the tree should be removed. I have agreed to pay for the cost to remove the tree. However, we found out earlier, as you mentioned, Vanessa, the permitting to remove that tree is punishing $13,000, and that would be on top of what my cost would be to have a landscaper come in and take it out. So we need a waiver so that we can get access to our backyard again. And we have many other trees that are in the backyard. Ken and I both love trees, and as pictures of our backyard show, we have many trees. So it's not like we're trying to get rid of trees. This particular tree is a problem. It's a white pine, and it's dropping tons of sap. So so I'm on this call to try to find out if there's any potential, any way at all we can get a waiver. Ken will have to do that. I'm going to help him as much as I can. The tree is on his property. It's like maybe a foot on his side of the property, and that's our situation.
Right.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, go ahead, Ken.
Okay. I wasn't sure how to talk on this thing, but it's working. So, yeah, I was going to say what you can't tell from the pictures you're showing is Bob's backyard is like his house to the property line is a very short distance compared to where the tree is to the back of my house. So the sap problems have never been an issue for me because it's not close in that sense. But I don't know if you can tell from those pictures how close. One of the branches is quite literally almost hanging on his roof. So it's just raining down on him and his deck. And I think you saw a picture up there of some of the damage it's doing. So I guess, you know, I'm in full agreement with Bob on this. It would be great to have that down. Like you said, there's 5 trees in my yard, and that one's not even close to being the biggest one. There's a silver maple right next to the pine tree that's also actually closer to his house, but it's not doing the damage. We just need to know what the process would be to get the waiver to allow us to go forward with removing it.
Thanks, Ken. Yeah, we're here to discuss that now. So I guess I'll open it up. Are there any committee members that have any questions or thoughts on providing a waiver here?
Tori?
Yeah, you know, I have some sympathy. What I would love to see happen is that if you can do a partial replant, like if you can replant, we're talking 22 caliper inches that would need to be replanted. I would say, could you replant, you know, 10 inches but not very like doing, you know, 1 inch or less caliper trees. And that could be you know, a boost of diversity. And when that happens, when you plant trees close together, they still form a significant canopy. They just don't get as large. Their diameter, the caliper doesn't get as big. They get taller, not um, as wide around. And just personally, I'm finding that to be a strategy when planting trees in dense urban areas because it kind of allows a homeowner to care for the trees a little more easy. So if you need to like lop off a branch, it's I mean, when you're going to plant them small, so it's going to be a while, but it's just an alternative way of planting that doesn't end up with a huge tree in your yard. It's still going to, again, provide the canopy. They're just going to be skinnier. So
Okay,
that's
can you see that picture that's on the screen right there? And that tree canopy, that
yeah.
is my entire backyard is already an entire canopy. The pine tree you can't even see because of the silver maple that's right next to it. And both that silver maple and the other silver maple, they have a diameter of 48 inches, both of them. There's a Japanese maple underneath all of that as well that has a pretty significant canopy, which you could have seen in one of those shots. I'm not opposed to adding more trees. I mean, there's, you know, getting rid of that tree is not going to do anything to the overall canopy. You can see so those are the two silver, there's a split silver maple right next to that pine tree in the back, right on the property line. And those two combined at the bottom and form a 48-inch diameter tree. And then this massive tree right there is also 48 inches. And then you've got the Japanese maple that's underneath all of that.
Well, an alternative suggestion would be planting some understory trees and or that little space in front of your porch. Can we make that a meadow? Again, these are suggestions. I'm just one person.
Oh, I'm not opposed to doing a meadow or doing something like that. You know, it's actually, I'm in process of redoing that whole front porch anyway. So it's,
I'm sure my other colleagues have thoughts.
Yeah, if anyone else on the committee would like to weigh in. Speaking for myself personally, I think I know that we've given waivers in the past, and I think given the situation that both neighbors kind of agree to this situation and that the tree is causing damage, I would be okay with granting the waiver, maybe with an agreement that some understory or like meadow or pollinator plants would be kind of planned to be put in as well. If anyone else has other thoughts, I'd love to hear them.
I'd love to weigh in if I can. I'm
Yes.
an associate member, just for the record. Yeah, I guess I agree with what everyone said so far. Just looking at it, I don't know how much of a meadow could be there. It's not super big in front, and it is the front porch. But I guess the bigger point from my perspective is, yeah, it would be awesome to see some plantings there, and it would be awesome to see native plantings that have ecological value that would benefit the sort of environment. And there's a lot of different ways to think about doing that, that don't have to be super expensive and, you know, could be catered to whatever aesthetic you might want to consider. I guess the big ask would be, could you or would you consider just working with somebody who has an ecological focus, and could therefore take a look, assess, and with you, with the aesthetic idea, come up with a really smart, helpful, beneficial plan that everyone would love. That would be amazing. And that would be a hell of a lot cheaper than most of the other alternatives, I guess. And one last quick question is, maybe someone else here could help what is the issue with all the sap? Is that an unusual thing, or is that typical? Or I guess I've never thought much about that. Is there a reason that a tree would be dropping so much sap, or is that just what pine trees typically do?
I'd
Well-
say it's pretty typical of pine trees, but maybe more. I've seen it in other evergreens when there's like borers or some sort of issue. I haven't seen this actual tree, so I'm not sure where it's coming from exactly, but there could be some sort of pest making the tree sap more than it normally would. That's my guess, but I don't know if anyone else has something to add.
I think that's a good question. Has it been sapping like this for years and years and years, or is there something that's happening all of a sudden?
I believe it has been getting worse over the last few years. This is not the first year that it's happened, but it seems to be happening much more this year than usual. I'm not a white pine tree expert, and I can't explain why there would be a change in this tree's behavior, but the damage is obvious. And as I mentioned before, it's becoming, it's actually ruining our activities in the backyard. We simply cannot even be out there without sap falling all over the place on top of us. So I don't know why this particular tree is sapping as much as it is. All we know is that the evidence is obvious. Malik has seen it. Vanessa has seen pictures of it. And it's going to be actually costly for me to repair the deck. We're going to probably have to refinish it. I believe I have chemicals that I can use to clean the chairs off. The patio pavers themselves, I'm going to have a professional come in to clean that. And then if we don't remove the tree, it's going to just do it all over again next summer. So that's where we are.
Leah, did you have something to add as well?
I'll just add a few thoughts. I've definitely experienced SAP elsewhere and can relate to your struggles there. I also know, not a pine tree expert in any way, but I know it has thrived in some urban places, but generally it's not considered a super urban tolerant tree. So, the signs of distress may be a result of that. But I did drop a link in the chat. This was a flyer we put together, and there's a few species on there that I think could be good as understory, meaning they would be tolerant to the sort of shady conditions and would stay pretty small, so you'd still have a lot of functional space to use and enjoy in your backyard. And I think, just looking at this briefly, like a flowering dogwood or redbud or American hornbeam, or hornbeam or hop hornbeam. Both of those are really good in shady conditions. And I don't know if we want to sort of recommend a specific amount that we'd like to replant, but it does sound like a few folks are encouraging some sort of replanting to also diversify the species that you have. It's really wonderful that you have such a rich canopy. That's an amazing asset to you and also all of your neighbors. So that's awesome. And I think we're just excited about continuing to sort of grow and expand and diversify that. So I think I'd be okay either submitting these as recommendations or saying that, we would provide the waiver and say, maybe planting 2 or 3 new trees would start the next generation of your canopy. So I don't know what other folks think about that, but I think I'd be in support of sort of approving the waiver.
Is this something that the committee would like to take a vote on?
Forget, did we get to vote on this, Vanessa?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can vote on a recommendation. You don't have to, but it's good to have consensus, I suppose.
Well, maybe instead of a vote, is anyone like specifically or uncomfortable with this proposal or this idea as a recommendation that we would then give? Michael?
I just had a question because I know we're talking about the waiver for the fee, but for the especially for the folks here who are landscape architects, if there was some kind of requirement here where waiver would be granted dependent upon planting of some certain number of native trees, cost wise, do we feel like that is still like a lower cost? Because I know in my view, replacing the trees is better. And so if that's also cheaper, that just seems like another benefit of this plan. I don't know if anyone can weigh in because I know the relative costs of like planting some number of other trees.
I personally think it's a little hard to make a specific recommendation based on the pictures. Like what
Would anybody be interested in coming over
trees
and taking a
could
look at
fit
it?
there.
It's a great idea, Ken.
Seriously, I'm open to honestly the property. I've had it for over 20 years, and it's a work in progress right now. It's at that stage where there's a lot of work that needs to be done. I've always wanted to do some, landscape architecture design or do something like that. I've got a beautiful Japanese maple in the middle of it's starting to grow into the house. I'd love to move that, like just get it more central or something so that I don't have to keep clipping it off and running into the house. So I'm open to people coming over. I mean, I don't live there. I'd have to drive in for it, but if people want to come and take a look and give suggestions on, it'd be nice if you planted some of these. I'm all for that because the pine trees killed in the whole canopy. There's not a real good opportunity to grow grass. Not that that's ideal anyway, I guess. But it does provide a lot of great shade and cool breezes, and so I'll throw that out there. Let me know, let Bob know, either one of us. Happy to show you around and open to any kind of suggestions.
I'd love to come. I'd love to come by. I can't charge you anything because I think there would be some sort of conflict of interest, you coming here and being like, hey, new client. But I'd be interested in just, I don't know, making some suggestions. And I'm trying to think of another like a landscaper to recommend. Yeah, so actually, what's Henry? All Gardens?
All gardens, yeah.
All Gardens.
Yeah, I'd be up for swinging by and taking a look too. That'd be cool.
I mean, it also, if you guys are saying, oh, we'll plant 3 of these type of trees or whatnot, and then you get there and look at it, and maybe what you're recommending now, based on those pictures, which aren't the greatest, may not be the right direction. Maybe it's something different, or, like somebody mentioned a dogwood, maybe that is a good option, but based on the spacing, maybe it's not. I have a dogwood here, and I know they get to be fairly large.
Yeah,
yeah.
it was, I think, Allison's original point, and I think it's a really good one. Yeah, taking a peek at it.
Yeah, and I
be
think
helpful.
that good. I was gonna say, I think dogwoods want full sun. So yeah, it's, I think looking at it, we could maybe make more specific recommendations. And also, when you take a tree out, unless you grind the stump, you don't want to plant a new tree there for a few years until the stumps or like the roots break down. So it's possible that, if the ultimate goal is to put more trees in, it may not be something that can happen overnight.
Right. Well, there's also that silver maple the silver maple and the pine are intertwined. They're totally competing, and I think the pine tree's sort of winning out. So that pine tree, the maple tree might thrive a little bit better, at least the one half of it, if the pine tree's gone. Just something to note.
So it sounds like to me maybe a conclusion that we can reach maybe right now is that Tori and Rob might go over and visit and maybe can communicate with you, Ken, on a time that works for all of you. Tori just put her email in the chat. And you can coordinate and then maybe get some recommendations, and then maybe the committee would recommend to Malik, or is it Malik who ultimately has that decision, I believe.
Yeah.
Then we would recommend to Malik that we will accept the waiver given these recommendations are acted upon or something like that. Does that seem good for everyone here?
Yeah, that sounds good to me. I can offline to connect Tori and Rob. I'll connect you with Bob and Ken, and you guys can arrange a field visit. I don't know what your desired timeline, Bob and Ken, is for the removal. We meet monthly here, so if we want to leave it, if you're hoping to remove the tree within the next month, then maybe we can just decide that a partial waiver is acceptable and sort of figure out the details offline. Or if you're planning to just do it sometime this winter and have more time, then we can discuss it more in depth at our September meeting.
Luca, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'd also be interested in coming over and seeing the backyard. So CC me.
Great.
Awesome.
Do you have a timeline requirement, Bob and Ken?
I'll leave it up to Bob. I mean, I think he's looking to do it much sooner than later. And like I said, this is really affecting him a lot more than me. So I'll go on whatever he wants to do. I'm going to help him however I can.
I'll do whatever I need to do to expedite the process. I would welcome a visit from any of you folks. So would Ken.
Yep.
And of course, any recommendations on what would be appropriate plantings after the tree is removed, we'd welcome to hear that. So sure, I'm all for expediting it.
So it sounds like maybe some of this communication can happen offline. Sounds like you want to get it done sooner, so maybe ideally before our next meeting we can start getting some action on this. Does that feel good for everyone?
Sounds good. I'll connect the 5 of you shortly, and then Malik and I will wait to hear back from you guys about how the site visit goes, and then can deal with the specifics of the waiver. But just sounds like, based on what we've heard and the recommendation, Bob and Ken, a partial waiver will be granted, just with some sort of planting requirement, but what that planting requirement is a little up for grabs. Does that make sense to everyone? Great.
All right. Also, thank you, Bob and Ken, for being so open to hear our suggestions and for being collaborative. We love to see neighbors respecting each other and working together in that way. If there are any other resident concerns, now is your chance. If not, I think it would be good for us to get on with our agenda. All right, I'm seeing no other concerns. So I think we are going to move on to item number 3, Quincy Street open space, park update and proposed tree removals. Does anyone have an update for us there?
I'm leaving.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay, thank you.
So we have Estelle Reganet here from Public Space and Urban Forestry to talk about Quincy Street. He's got a presentation for us. Estelle, do you want me to share my screen or do you want to do it?
I can do it.
Okay.
I have it queued up.
Yay.
Hi, everyone. I am happy to be joining you to present the progress updates about the renovation at Quincy Street Pocket Park and have you all review a proposal for tree removals and updates to the planting plans. Like Vanessa said, my name is Estella Reganet, and I am a senior public space planner with the Public Space and Urban Forestry Division and the project manager on behalf of the city. Let's see. So I will go through a little introduction, talk about the design and existing conditions of the park, and then go into the potential tree removal and replacement, as well as the planting plan updates and with any questions from you all. And so just to orient everyone, like its namesake implies, Quincy Street Pocket Park is on Quincy Street between Summer Street to the north and Somerville Avenue to the south, uphill from the Market Basket parking lot. It's a little over 5,000 square feet or over 0.1 acres. And prior to initial construction, the space was an empty lot that didn't provide a lot of ecological or social value. And so in 2008, neighbors and members of the community organized to get the space turned into a pocket park, and the city contracted the landscape architects at Weston and Sampson to complete the design, and park construction wrapped up in 2012 with the goal that this would be a sort of garden forest oasis in the middle of this residential block. And since then, there have always been community involvement with Quincy. Here's just a smattering of a few events like the spring cleanups and bulb blitzes that have taken place at the park. And this is a diagram of the park design and the conditions before construction, and as well as the design team's vision for the space. So I'll walk you through a bit of the site elements of the park and show some existing conditions photos as well. And so the first key feature of the park was this winding boardwalk, which leads you up and into the park to small gathering spaces with Adirondack chairs. And as you can see from the photos from a decade ago, the wooden boardwalk has aged, making it an ADA and safety concern. And so this issue is what sort of instigated the proposal to update the planting as larger boardwalk reconstruction will disturb the planting areas adjacent. Next are these granite curbs here that create these micro terraces across the site. And this sort of becomes an elegant way to negotiate the change in elevation between the sidewalk and the top of the park, so which is significantly lower than the back of the site, which is higher. The original planting design worked off of these bands with the goal of having much more lush planting towards the back of the park and a lawn area towards the entry. However, as you can glean from the photo taken a few weeks ago, the conditions of the site are such that the tall trees on the south side, so plan left here, as well as the building, cast a lot of shade, while the north side of the park on the right are in full sun. And all of these issues sort of collide in this slide. And so in addition to some of the safety concerns of the boardwalk, it also has become a space for rats to nest underneath. And while the bulbs create brilliant blooms in the spring, the ecological and pollinator value is not sustained through the summer on the south end of the site. So meanwhile, on the north end of the site, or the site that's in full sun, you kind of get this explosion of goldenrods and 8 to 10 foot tall coreopsis plants towards the end of the summer. And I hope to share how updates to the planting will address concerns about visibility into the park and choreograph a sequence of pollinator habitat throughout the year. And here are a few more views of that south side of the park that I've been talking about, which shows how defoliated it gets after the spring ephemerals do die back. And now moving to updates to the design. We have rehired Weston and Sampson to renovate the site using the initial design. And the design is just getting tweaked here and there, but in addition to updates to the planting that I will discuss in a few minutes, the major move will also be to lean into the concept of entering an urban forest oasis with an update from the wooden boardwalk to a concrete path with an exposed aggregate edge that mimics the beauty of a leaf-lined trail. And we're also proposing the removal of 3 of the 8 invasive sycamore maples on that south side of the park in anticipation that these 3 selected may cause future issues on site and to set up a native tree successional canopy for the future. So there are invasive sycamore maple seeds that are responsible for scattering their seeds throughout the pocket park, creating an environment where the invasive seedlings outcompete the native understory. And trees 1 and 3 also have, or 1 and 2 also have cankers along the trunk, which point to potential tree health issues. And here are the other 2 invasive sycamore maples. Tree 3 is the most exposed to the sun, which will also provide great conditions for replacement native trees to thrive. And we are proposing an American hornbeam tree at position number 1 and 2 tulip trees shown as 2 in the plan. And the multi-stem hornbeam will be a really beautiful addition to the park. As Leah mentioned, actually, it's nice and slow growing. It's a native understory tree that will reach a mature height of 20 to 30 feet, which will be a really great scale for this garden park. It'll also have this really distinctive and beautiful, smooth, sinewy gray bark that'll frame the stone steppers in this area here. And the corner, like stone seating edged area, and also provide really vibrant red-orange fall color. The fast-growing tulip trees will grow well in the new clearings and will bring a golden yellow layer to the fall canopy. And now for the shrubs. So we are relying on the shrub layer to really define the space and keep seasonal interest for humans and pollinators alike. So we're leaning into the forest oasis by planting the hazelnut and witch hazel shrubs, which will do well in the shadier environments, but will also add that nice middle layer to the planting. And we're very excited to plant a lone spice bush towards the back of the park, which will provide an incredible yellow fall color to match the tulip trees and complement the hazelnuts. And we are also sprinkling in arrowwood and maple leaf viburnums as structuring plants as well. We've included a sugar shack buttonbush, which is a dwarf variety, dwarf Fothergilla, sweet spire, which is doing really well towards the northwest side of the park over here, as well as grow low sumacs, as a sort of our tried and true shrubs that are at the 2 to 4 feet height range and will define the bounds of the park itself. So you can see that we're using it to frame the sunnier northern fence edge, so here, and line the path so that there's always something woody across all seasons, and to contain users to the path and not promote trampling on this lower terrace here, which has been an issue by pets and pet owners, actually. So it has always been an issue of the park, and we're wanting to create or display these showy shrubs, but allow them, or understanding that the blooms are a little bit more muted, and allow for exciting things to happen at that ground cover layer. And so before jumping in, this is the new planting plan that sort of takes into account the gradient of sun to shade as you move from north to south, or in this case, from right to left on plan. So instead of following the granite bands, this planting plan adjusts to the microclimates produced by the sun and shade from the mature trees and neighboring house, and organizes the planting north to south. And so in the full sun area, we'll add butterfly milkweed, coreopsis, both of which will grow between 1 to 3 feet, creeping phlox and little blue stem to fill in those path edges, and then provide that flowering seasonal interest along the front gate of the park. Next, at the full sun but more wet condition, we're planting anemone, pussy toes, and path thrush, all of which are more tolerant to dog pea, while providing a lot of pollinator value as well. And so this area is more of a transitional zone that will provide texture and infill spaces between the shrub layers, and will also lead into the woodland mix. And so we're really excited to have this area use ground cover planting to create that woodland oasis feel. Wild ginger and foam flower will be used as the primary ground cover, with pops of red from the wild columbine and drifts of aster and alum root throughout. And because the area is fully shaded, we also want to use ferns and mayaples to provide a lot of texture along the ground plane and make it feel lush and separate from the full sun mixes. So as you walk deeper into the space, you feel like you're in a totally different environment, especially as you're sitting in this southern gathering area here. And finally, I wanted to use all the wonderful thinking that emerged from the pollinator action plan and make sure that we have pollinator food sources for as many months as possible. And so we're achieving and exceeding that with the ground cover layer, as well as with the shrub layer. Like the planting of the witch hazels really extend the food sources for pollinators, like moths and sweat bees late into the fall and into the early winter as well. And so this is my last slide. I think I spoke pretty fast, and I'm happy to answer any questions and receive any comments for updates as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that presentation. Are there any community members or committee members who have any comments or questions for Estella? Leah?
This is great. Thank you so much for the overview. And I feel like we've talked about this space quite a lot over the years, and it's great to see that it's getting some attention that it needs. So I have I think a few pretty small comments. I love that you shared the seasonal chart. I feel like that's something we always push for. So this feels like a very proactive presentation. So I appreciate that. I think one thought generally, and this is something we've talked about for a while back, but mentioning that dogs are a challenge, it feels like there's sort of two main issues. One is like trampling, and then just, something that we probably can't contain too much, but something we've talked about in the past that we might be able to contain is dog pee. And I'm wondering if there was discussion about making a designated area, and I'm almost looking at like the bottom right corner of this plan. And do folks think it'd be a good idea just to put like a gravel patch where basically the dog goes pee right when it gets there, and then ideally it doesn't go pee on all the plants. Though I do appreciate that they've incorporated some plants that are tolerant. I feel like that's always a big struggle. But I think when we've discussed this, it seems like dog owners can start to train their dogs. And so if there's a cued space where it's like, this is the space for dogs, it could help sort of curb that challenge. So that's one thought. And then I'm also curious about irrigation. I know there's like a hose there today, maybe. Is this going to be irrigated into the future, or will it be temporary until it gets established?
Yeah, so to answer that latter question, the hose bib area is plan bottom left, and we will not install irrigation. So the primary driving force of the project was to really address the ADA concerns of the path and not necessarily do a full larger plan overhaul, but wanted to use this opportunity to update the planting because it's a little bit helter-skelter in its current form. So we will monitor and hope that they is established within the first few years. And then the second, or the first question about, or comment about the designated dog area. So not shown in this plan are two big bellies, so the trash and recycling in that bottom right area that you mentioned, Leah. And so this space is actually quite tight. And I fear that having or designating this space in particular as the dog pee area, like right when you enter, I don't want people to be greeted with those scents as you walk in. But I'm happy to talk about other areas that might work as well. As you see, we've kind of situated the shrubs such that it sort of blocks off the current dog pee and poop area grass lawn to prevent that from happening. It might still happen, but the idea is to also encourage people to, if it's part of their walk, to go up to Nunziato, which is just up the road. I know it's probably not, that's not how animals work, but that is what we're trying to get at with the new planting and the way that we're organizing the shrubs. But happy to hear more feedback about, whether this is a good spot to clear or to close off a bit. I did review a lot of the meeting notes from the UFC previously, as well as from the community meetings. And yeah, dogs and dog owners want to have the space. A lot of other people don't. So there's always that tension that we're having to negotiate.
Definitely. Can I just ask one follow-up question on the
Sure.
irrigation? Will the contractor be responsible for initial irrigation, or what's the sort of maintenance strategy? And then also with that, will this still be one of the like horticulturalist special parks that gets additional planting maintenance?
Yeah, we haven't, I have yet to review the planting specs that was provided from Weston Sampson, but they usually do or are in charge of maintaining it for at least a year. And because this is a much more ornamental heavy planting, I am very open and would like to see this included as part of the horticultural maintenance manual. I think it makes sense and is the scale at which, even a small amount of effort is a big result, like a small lift creates a big impact at a space like this.
Awesome, thank you. Rob, did you also have some comments?
Yeah, thank you. Just to echo what Leah was talking about at the end there, I don't know what the budget constraints are or even how the financing of all this works, but it would be awesome to have some maintenance, sort of infrastructure maintenance costs built in, especially the first year or so in terms of watering, etc. Another idea I have is, it seems like an awesome plan and well thought through, and I think it's an amazing opportunity to potentially do a little bit of education with some potentially really tasteful and thought through signage. And again, I don't know the budget constraints of all of that, but if there could be a few signs here and there explaining sort of the real input that went into this idea of it being ecologically valuable, of it being fully seasonal from beginning to end, and that's an important concept that some people don't know about. Even a little sign somehow, tasteful sign discouraging people from letting their dogs pee again, I don't think most people understand what dog urine's sort of composition is and how that can be problematic for certain plants and trees, but something to just, again, I think, pique people's interest and to educate them a bit would be really cool, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Signage was not built into the initial budget because, again, it was mainly for the renovation of the boardwalk to a concrete walk. But I think that's a great idea to include educational signage, and we'll look into that and see if it's something we could do either post as a division task if it isn't able to be completed within the constraints of this budget. Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, and it just one last thought, it makes me think too, I don't know, again, perhaps there's some sort of grant options or possibilities for doing something like that.
Totally. We'll look into it. Thank you for that.
I love that idea, Rob, and I think something even as simple as like putting a sign showing that blooming chart that you showed us on the slideshow, like something as simple as that could be really interesting for people, and also kind of provide some of the thought that was put into it as well, because I can see how well thought out and beautifully planned this is. It would be really cool if community members who might not recognize that on their own could get a glimpse of that. Do we have any more? Oh, yes, Leah and then Tori after.
Tori, go ahead.
Well, I have a bunch of notes, so Leah, if you have a simple question,
I was just going to add, looking at this again, I feel like evergreen species are, I was trying to remember what was on the shrub page, but I don't think there's any true evergreens, and I would recommend, yeah, I think that would be my one sort of change recommendation, would be to add some evergreen species, because the shrubs will help in the winter, but having
Right.
some of that diversity.
Yeah, I think there's like one lonely holly back here.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. Thanks, Leah.
At every, yeah, both layers, I guess. Thank you. Yeah, Tori.
Yeah, this is so inspiring to see this. I feel like for a long time, even though there is this sort of charm with this floating boardwalk, it's created this problem of being a lush oasis for rats, as you mentioned. So my first thought is there is an ADA accessible material that's porous, which is called schist. Are you familiar with that? And could we not do the concrete and do a schist pathway?
Do you mean like the granular schist, or like schist pavers with space between?
No, I was thinking just straight up, just that, finely ground schist rock material. I
Yeah,
just
so
want to throw it out there as an ADA accessible material that also offers impervious surface.
right, and we did ask the consultant team, Weston and Sampson, to look into that. And the only issue with that type of granular material is that it tends to migrate, one, and then two, after a while, it gets compacted and actually isn't as porous. So there are a few issues with that, and especially with a park like this, we didn't want to have an even more maintenance heavy material for our DPW to manage. But I will also look into that.
Okay, thanks for that. Hold on, where are my notes? I really support what Rob was suggesting around some signage. We might have some precedent for language, even on our, we have sort of temporary signage, the leave the leaves, and this is a pollinator space.
Yeah.
So that would be the minimum, but if we do have something in the budget for like what the plants are, even a list of the plants, even though they might change over time, that could be something just to pique people's interest and again, offer education. I want to just recommend, I would say,
Oh no, sorry, the lights went off
sorry.
because I didn't move enough.
Oh, no. If it's possible, like for you to inspect the site now and just see naturally how the space is being used in terms of dogs, because I think that could really inform whether or not the habit can be changed, although dogs can be trained, and sometimes there is this resistance from dog owners like, no, my dog goes where it goes. But yeah, because I think they use that, initial site to the left mainly. So I don't have an answer, but if we do sort of like a dog pee station, there has to be some sort of signage like, okay, you're not going right in the front, you're gonna, go wherever behind that. So signage around that, I think, would be a good way to change behavior. And if behavior isn't going to be changed, what is the natural path right now of using that park, especially regarding dogs? I'm just again so pleased. A couple additions, if you could. Can we get some Virginia bluebells in there? A beautiful ephemeral. It'll play so nicely with the tulips that are there. They're cheap. They're easily accessed, at least in my experience.
Yeah, I didn't show the bulb layer, but we were also planning to buy a few more bulbs. So happy to hear your recommendations on
Okay, please.
additional ephemerals. That's great.
Yeah, let's get some trout lily in there, some Virginia bluebells, maybe some bloodroot, not the one that has the double flower, just because, again, we have our native spring ephemerals and be good just to introduce those to people because they think, oh, we don't have native plants that bloom in the spring, early spring. Also would love to see some celandine poppy with if you can pair that with some of the columbine, that can be a really gorgeous pairing. The native poppy, obviously. I'm not a fan of cultivars. I'm not sure why a straight species buttonbush wouldn't
It's
work.
just so big. They get really, really large. And so this buttonbush variety is much smaller.
Okay, I guess I have sympathy for that.
Yeah, but we're very certain, or we tried to be very explicit about, like making sure that it's not a different color so the bees or the pollinators know that they're getting what they're getting.
Wow, we are so setting the standard. By the way, Estella, it's so nice to see you too. I'm in love with the summer sweet. I mean, again, sort of the fragrance of those is just intoxicating if we want to add to this oasis. I mean, buttonbush is beautiful too, smells beautiful. And I understand sort of like, so the height of perhaps herbaceous plants is something that has been discussed in this committee before. I'm just going to throw out some echinacea and black-eyed Susans. They're an easy conversion plant for
Yep.
those who are like, what do I plant? I didn't see later blooming aster or later blooming goldenrod, but I'm just going to suggest the Solidago nemoralis because that doesn't get more than 2 feet. And instead of a compact aster, I think, oh gosh, Ionactis something or other. I'll get you the plant. So just, I know we have the witch hazel, but we can't miss the aster season. Let me see. Alum root, little blue stem. Anyway, those would be my suggestions. Thank you for the spice bush. That's such an early bloomer. And maybe we get some spice bush swallowtails on there. So exciting. Pennsylvania sedge is sort of a no-brainer for filling in spaces.
Yeah.
Supporting what Leah said around evergreens. I'm not like inkberry for me is overused, but so is fragrant sumac. I'd rather see an inkberry than a fragrant sumac. But that inkberry will be some has a nice May, it's really beautiful in May, the blooms, and that's evergreen. And then of course Christmas fern, if we want to add some evergreen winter green. I don't know how accessible that is, but that would be perfect in the shade. Marginal wood fern has this evergreen if it's in the shade, and I forget what else, but just like, I don't know, this is like out of the park. And just in the sort of initially, even though you're removing the the invasive big trees, can we make sure that we're also removing the little ones that are seeded in? And so
Yeah.
is that
And
possible? Is that
I
going to be part of it? I guess removing also all the burdock, and I think the space basically has to be cleared.
right. And so the plan isn't to remove all of the invasive trees because it would just eliminate this entire canopy, and um, those trees aren't actually diseased or don't show any potential. I mean, if it were me, I would be like, yeah, let me go to the UFC and see if I can get them all removed. But I understand that we're trying to get the sort of succession canopy as well. So there are actually more invasive or non-native sycamore maples here. So there's this multi-stem one that is huge, but it is providing a lot of shade and will provide a lot of shade for the next few years while these trees that we do plant that we remove get established. But totally understand.
One thing about sycamore maples is I find you can actually plant under them versus Norway maples. So I don't know, I'll give a little grace. But just like kind of the small ones, the sort of,
Right.
like ones that are like little or a quarter of an inch or even an inch caliper.
Definitely. Yep.
And are we going to leave this, like there's a pretty lovely milkweed stand and I'd hope we'd leave it, but if we don't leave it, I'd love for people to be able to dig that up, get the roots out if, there's
Yeah.
a bunch of milkweed there. And I understand the instinct to be like, whew, let's have a clean slate, but it's
Totally. Yeah. So we have specified in the plans that we will try and keep a lot of the like pollinator plants that are already there, especially on this northernmost side. We may be able to plant them back here as well. So there is space for them. We don't want to like fully get rid of them, and we know that they do well in this environment. So
Yeah, as soon as I remember that the aster that is gonna, again, asters and goldenrod are so important. They're like, you know, number one and number two in terms of host value and for late season pollinators. But this is great. Wow, Somerville is so awesome. We have such a wonderful Peace Up staff, and I'm just total gratitude right now. So well done.
great. Thank you.
If there are no other comments on this presentation, then I think we can move on to our next agenda item. But Estelo, thank you so much. This looks amazing. And thank you for listening to our comments and questions. Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
We can, yes. With that, we can move on to updates from the city. If we have tree removals, upcoming hearings, and any permits or exceptions, I'll pass that over to Vanessa and David.
David, do you want to kick us off with any public tree stuff?
Yeah, I will run through the list of removals since last month. I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah, if you want to share, that would be great.
Yes, I will step it up a little bit. Once I saw Malik's presentation, I was like, oh man, I have to do better. So all right, great. So we will start off 32 Belmont Street. Is a 10.3 dBH and not a lot to explain. Not a lot of canopy. This recently actually failed. This tree has been removed this week due to actually falling apart, but approved for removal before that. You've got 39 Bradley Street. 9-inch DBH. Long dead, approved for removal. $115 Broadway. There's two at the East Branch East Branch Library. So we've got a crabapple 10.1. It is been dead for a little while and there is no life. I wouldn't say long dead, but not coming back. Another one around back of the library. Got a cherry tree that it's a 14 dBH. I think it's a little bigger than that, but there is no life in the canopy. And a lot of the fine twigs are starting to disappear. So this is time to come down. '78 Columbus Ave. We have a linden tree, 11.2. This has a healthy canopy. So if we look at this side of the tree, it's very heavy. On the constituent side, been pruned away from the power lines, but the issue is structural at the base. About half of this is soft punky wood, and I can sink my screwdriver right in there. So the heavy side of the tree is the only part that has any good wood left. So the wood on the street side, anyways, this tree is hazardous and deemed worthy of removal. That is on the list for this fall. Oh, there were a couple trees, umbrella pines in the park, Chucky Harris Park, that did not make their initial launch. Dow Street, I don't have any pictures of it. It was a tree that disintegrated on its own. It wasn't very big. 11-inch. Yeah, it was crispy, and we got an emergency call that it had fallen over onto the communication lines, and that one did its own removal. 21 Gilman Terrace. This tree is 9.6 dBH. It's died in the last couple, say 2 or maybe 3 years ago, losing its fine twigs. I suspect.
Question about that one.
Certainly.
How do trees get enough water when they have such little space?
Yeah, it's a great question. Urban trees are amazing, and I don't know. They find resources somewhere, but it's a really good question. When trees are paved or cemented up on each side all the way around, I don't know how they survive, but they seem to. We do have a particular square footage that we want now in order to plant, which Vanessa can speak more to, but I believe it's 18 square feet to give a tree a chance to survive. But there's a lot of trees out there that they're likely tapping into some sort of water source somewhere else. But like on a street like this, we've got all the water sheeting away. There's no help on this side of the street either. So I do suspect this doesn't look huge, but it's 6 to 7 inches up on this trunk. Flower boxes are something that's on my list of things to address around the city, as I've seen a lot, and people have good intentions with them. But it's really important to leave those, the base of that tree open. Exchange of gases and just for many reasons. Does that answer your question?
So we wouldn't put a tree back in a space this small today.
Correct. What we would do in collaboration with the tree team would be either, so say this spot was a perfect spot for planting, but it's just too small, we would cut and make that hole larger to hit the right specifications in order to plant a tree. I suspect this spot might not be ideal, but maybe down the street to the right, or maybe up the street to the left might be better. But the idea is not to make the same mistakes. Yeah.
So if we see trees that look like they're thriving today, but it's a really small space, is there any thought of proactively expanding the box so that they don't prematurely die?
Great question. I've heard talk of that. I'm relatively new with the city and urban forestry practices. But I have heard talk of us doing that in the past. So I'd have to follow up more with Vanessa on that. I will say sometimes that might be viable. Sometimes it might be damaging depending on size of the tree, where the roots are all balled up. You know, if you go cutting with a stone saw around a tree, you might nick roots that are underneath it. But that is definitely been thought of, and I do believe it is a practice.
Yeah, we have done it a few times before. We have to get highway department involved in expanding the wells. We do always expand the tree wells wherever possible when we do streetscape projects. So those trees are the luckiest. Well, not really, because I have to deal with streetscape project, but they do get bigger wells out of the deal. So yeah, if you see really tight spots, but the tree's thriving, you can let us know and we can look into the possibility of expanding.
Okay.
Alyssa, did you have a comment? Also, noting Crystal's comment in the chat, encouraging the Urban Forestry Committee to draft some language around permeable land around a tree. That's awesome to see.
Yeah, I just had one quick question. It was mentioned that the garden around the tree is bad. Is that because it's raised and therefore, damaging part of the tree that expects to actually be above ground? Or is that because the plants end up competing for water resources, or both?
Well, the plants could technically at some point compete for resources in a situation like this, but the primary issue is right around the base of the tree. There's a lot of exchange of gases, and it's important to let the tree breathe for that reason.
Okay, so it's the raised garden about half of the tree wells in my neighborhood are full of weeds, and it's on my list to go around and weed out, but I was planning on putting in flower seeds, and if it were, none of them are raised though. So if it's good to know the primary problem is the raisedness, not the plants.
And just to follow, just the second or maybe primary reason, moisture is also really bad to sit around the base of the tree like that. So
Yep,
yes, the
makes sense.
raisiness, but plants in a tree well that are at the right level, not necessarily that much of an issue.
Awesome, thank you.
Anybody else?
Tori, did you have? I think you're muted if you're speaking.
All right, if there are no more questions there, I'll keep moving.
If I could just interrupt, just Alyssa,
Yeah.
if you are going to do some weeding, just I recommend like leaving the native plants that are there. I mean, if you're weeding out like mugwort and lady's thumb or lamb's quarters, like awesome. I just, again,
Yeah.
there's no real harm when plants, they naturally grow around trees, whether they be weeds or
Oh no,
so
I've been working my way through the invasives. So I've gotten rid of most of the knotweed in
Amazing.
my neighborhood. I've gotten rid of most of the black swallowwort. I'm working on the Oriental bittersweet. I'm just working my way down.
Okay. Do you and I'm just going to recommend using native plant seeds if you're reseeding. And thank you.
All right, so this next tree is awful. It's a pretty sad situation. So we got a call about a tree not looking healthy. And indeed it was not. It is a sycamore, 23.3 dBH. And I don't want that picture first. Somebody had vandalized it, and it's been 100% girdled. I suspect some sort of power saw. I put on my investigation hat and talked to all the neighbors that I could. There was some construction on the site. I talked to the couple construction people. I talked to the police officer. None of the neighbors had anything to say about who did it. Hard to say if they know or don't know. This was the tree on the day that I went out about a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. And this was the tree last week. It's declining fast, and there is no remedy for bringing it back. So this tree is a removal, and not a lot of recourse at the moment, as there's can't really prove anything. Suspect people, but suspicions don't stand up well in court. So
do we have any properties that would have a camera on it?
Yeah. So this property here, I spoke with this gentleman. They have a camera. They said they have checked their cameras and that because they saw what happened, or well, they saw the damage, and they have looked at their cameras and have not seen anything. So, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a sad one.
Have we had history of that in Somerville before?
We had someone attempt a girdling, but it wasn't this drastic. They like scratched the edge, but they didn't go so deep, and it wasn't with power saws. That's the only case I remember. So in the last 9 years.
Considered doing it to a tree of heaven, but it wouldn't take it out anyway, so.
That would make it worse.
Yeah.
So I'll keep going. Not into brighter pastures, but at least into less vindictive removals. Let's see where we're. Heath Street, 65 Oxford Street. Vanessa and I just walked by this yesterday. It is an elm tree. It says 10.3. It's actually a bigger DBH than that, but it is long dead and moving into highly hazardous. Not easy to get a good picture of this. I could have gone a little different camera angle, but it's starting to lose some of its fine twigs, and it is approved for removal. The good news is I do believe there's a fair amount of planting space here, so that will be an upside.
The soil is actually super shallow there.
Oh, okay.
Well, probably can't, but we'll try.
.47 Parkdale Street. 7.3 dBH. This is there are probably 20 leaves in the canopy, but it is, so I can't say it's 100% dead, but it is approved for removal. Usual suspects. .187 Powder House Boulevard. 14.3 dBH in a red maple. This has a canopy that was about 50%, right on the line of what I would be hesitant to approve for removal. but I found out afterward there's actually been a fair amount of construction on Powder House. About half of the canopy has died, is declining, and then what pushed it over the edge was the structural integrity of the tree is not viable for keeping it around. My plan for this tree is to keep the canopy for the remainder of the season, and then remove it this winter. There is a awesome amount of planting space here. And since I approved this about 2 weeks ago, a lot of this canopy has continued to die back still. So I feel confident in the decision. Rather than pruning it and removing it next year, we're just going to remove it this year and plant and move on into '98 Prospect Street. This is a crispy hazardous Zelkova. Pretty big, 21. This is an Eversource tree. By Eversource, I mean I have contacted Eversource and they will be removing this tree. It is about 1 foot away from these primaries and crispy dead up top. There's a little bit of life out here, but not viable for staying around. There's a little bit of construction damage on this that I noticed I noticed construction around there. I do think this happened well after, judging by the wood. And so I don't think I can blame that injury on what's going on with this tree. This will probably be removed next week, I believe, by Eversource. 397 Revolution Drive, right in front of the hospital there. I went out to look at another tree, which, great news, actually was doing really well. But in the meantime, I discovered this tree with well-decorated so I believe we can plant there again. I'll have to talk to Vanessa about that, but
I have a question about that last picture too. So
Yeah.
that one has rocks around.
yes. So stone can be a good alternative, can be an okay alternative for mulch. It's not always recommended, but it does.
Rocks
it
are
is-
okay.
They can be okay. Yes, they are permeable, and they don't provide any. There's probably some downside to them. They can get warm and potentially, but I mean, yeah. So rocks are okay. The tree itself
Would it be
has
better if there were no rocks, or like where's the
Yeah.
benefit? Where do we sit on like the value scale of like, it seems like we're
Yeah, I don't
generally
know. I've
okay with
always
having vegetation around trees and mulch around trees, but what do we think about rocks?
I don't have a problem with them in the right situation, like mulch or vegetation would provide more nutrients, but the rocks, especially when they're light colored like this, shouldn't really increase the heat too much. And this is an assembly square, so it's really high foot traffic. And if it was, I don't know, it's just sort of the aesthetic they were going for, I guess, but it also like you can't really, it doesn't get compacted, so it's not like ever going to be not permeable. So I don't have a problem with it. It's low maintenance.
Okay.
Tori?
Yeah, I kind of maybe, I think preference is probably, green vegetated mulch. But in this space, it seems to make sense. One wonderful thing about rocks that doesn't get enough buzz is that what's the property? They moisture attaches to them. So you think you're in the woods, like, right, you like lift up a rock in the woods and there's like a salamander under it because rocks have this colloidal property with water where water attaches. So it's actually not that this is something I would necessarily instantly go for, but there is a water retention benefit of rocks. Maybe not first choice, but definitely not doing harm.
Cool, very interesting.
All right.
Real quick,
Try
Dave,
to hurt.
just, I don't know if you're almost done, but maybe, or we had a lot of presentations today, maybe if you want to focus on any big ones for this.
Yes. Let's well, this one was a large one, and I'll hurry along. I noted the time. So Norway, 23 DBH. I'll just click through the pictures. It's been saved in the past, but it's right next to a school. And we took that down this week. I flagged it about a month ago, and since this was a month ago, we had a little bit of canopy down here, starting to get crispy on the end there. And then this was last week or 2 weeks ago, a week ago, we'd already lost. Anyways, so that is probably one of the larger ones we've done, but Willow Ave has been approved, which is actually got a fair amount of canopy left, but what's happening here is the ballasting side of the canopy has now been has died and is now going to be removed. What we have left is a small lower limb on the lower part of the canopy. And this upper part of the canopy, you can't quite see. We have 3 primaries, or at least 1 primary. I can't remember if it's 3 or 2 or 1. But the only thing that's really viable for this is to mitigate this unbalancedness, is to prune down this canopy by half, and that would leave a tree that is not going to make it and not worth keeping. So that, again, like another on the list, we're going to keep through the summer, keep that canopy, but and that's about it. We've got other, this one is there's a lot more crispy ones that are long dead trees. This one had a recent failure on someone's car. I've approved this for removal. This is the second failure from this pear tree. They had one over their lawn that failed. And there is a lot of included bark here. So even though there is a healthy canopy in this pear tree, the way it's been pruned and the included bark and the recent events of losing 2 large leaders, I don't think it's viable to keep as due to its public hazard. And I'll wrap up with that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Are we also hearing about private tree removal permits, or are we skipping that since Malik isn't here?
I could present on it. I'm just trying to see if there was anything really interesting. I think we already heard the interesting case earlier, so we can skip it. And if anyone has any questions, just reach out. Yeah, Malik should be back next month. I'll put a link in the chat. There's a tree hearing next Thursday. for a public tree at 9 Taylor. There's a development and a Norway maple conflict. But Dave, that was enjoyable to hear how David goes through his thought process too. So thanks, Dave.
Yeah. I second that.
Did you have
Just, yeah, my question is, I really liked how this was presented because we could see each tree. Now, is this something, because formerly we've had them in sheets, right? Or I really like this. Is this something we can access iTree and just or will these also be added to our list of tree removals?
I think I ever told David exactly. I didn't show him the spreadsheets that Breck used to make exactly. This is from Treekeeper, which you will have access to the new smart tree inventory soon, but I don't think you guys can see our work requests, which is how this is sort of an additional feature of Treekeeper that you won't be able to see. So if this is like a helpful way to just have it in your head, then we can just do this instead. Or if you want like even a screenshot maybe of that data field, David, could be sent to UFC, something so you don't have to like then also make a sheet.
I like it. I like, well done, David. Yeah. And I don't think we need to do double work. So maybe what you suggested.
Awesome. I think with that, I know we're running short on time. Maybe we can get a quick rundown on some ongoing work updates and then try and approve last month's meeting minutes and then conclude if that's okay with everyone. Outreach summer streets, is there an update that anyone would like to share briefly from that?
I will. Summer Streets is coming up and there's the call for having tables. I assume we wanted a table, but I haven't applied till talking to you. Do you want me to give you more information, like when it is, before we decide? Summer Streets. Sorry, I'm doing too many things at once. It's the Monster Mash, and it's Sunday, October 19th from 2 to 6, with the following week being the rain date or severe weather date. So this is the one where usually there's dressing up, and I know for new members, Tori's gotten like wand supplies before, so like flower wands and stuff. Yeah, Michael says costumes encouraged. Exactly. So is this something I should set us up for 1 or 2 tables?
2 tables were helpful, at least in the past few years, to have a couple, like the wand making station and.
Great. All right, our outreach committee is ready to do some outreach. I think, do I have the supplies? I don't remember.
I think you have the supplies
Okay.
after Arbor Day.
I do. Yep.
I won't be able to attend, but I support the team, outreach team.
Great. Do we have at least 2 people who can attend? It is a 4-hour event. We got a Tori.
And it's great to have 4 if we can, so you can do 2 2-hour shifts.
I'll just see the date again.
October 19th, Sunday, October 19th. Why don't I'll send out an email so you can check your calendars, and I'll wait for response before I submit an application.
And then I just opened Summer Streets and it looks like there's a Gilman Square Summer Streets too. I don't know, I think that's like the I've seen little flyers. It's like a festival of some sort. But I don't know if there's the same tabling opportunity there.
I haven't heard about that one.
It's on the Summer Streets upcoming events. Drop it in the chat.
Okay.
that looks like all our outreach updates. Do we want to take a moment now to do one of the UFC overview and startup questions? Maybe that can be our final thing we have time for today.
Might suggest we
Else we do next
skip it.
time?
Skip that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know this is your last meeting, Kala.
Mhm.
I wonder if we want to talk about the most wanted weeds thing at all.
Yes. I can share my screen. I think it is done. The only like problem is the citations because we used photos that belonged to other people. And there's like a ton of different like we source from a ton of different people, so I'm not sure if there's space on the poster to include every single person. So I'm not sure like for legal or like, you know, that kind of those kinds of reasons. I might need some help on getting the citations figured out. But aside from that, I just want to pop the like urban forestry committee logo onto it, and then I think it should be in good shape. But I would love everyone to take a look at it as well. I think I can send it in the chat. You give me a second.
Kala, thank you so much for doing that. I saw your email and sorry I haven't responded yet, but I
No,
can
you're totally fine. I ghosted you in my email for a very long time, so don't apologize.
I can send the logo and I was thinking I would send it back to the folks we talked with at Earthwise Aware because they're the ones who provided some guidance on the citation, so I can see if they think that what you suggested is good. We could also just put all of them, I was thinking along the bottom maybe, and just make them like much smaller font.
Yeah.
Not much small, like still legible, but
yeah,
a little bit smaller.
Great. I'm gonna try and send this in the chat.
Yeah, I wonder if we can, once we see the draft, like preliminarily approve it so that maybe we could get it printed for our fall tabling. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, I should be sending in the chat right now, and just imagine it with correct citations and the urban forestry logo.
But I thought it looked really good and I appreciate all your help in making it happen.
Of course, and yeah, I invite the whole committee to look it over and ensure that everything looks good to them as well.
Oh, I did see one typo. I forget what it was. Oh, field blindweed, I think is bindweed.
Oh, okay. That's an easy fix.
That one's easy.
Okay. Oh, yes, I see.
Yeah, we can do another spell check on it.
Looks great, Kala. Did you made this in Canva maybe?
Yes, and I'm happy to share the
in case we need to
Canva
do
version. Yeah.
In case we need to tweak it, that might be
Yeah,
helpful.
totally.
In case you're busy doing college things.
Yeah. Oh, Crystal?
I'm really sorry, Kala, just in terms of accessibility, the parentheses around un, if there's a way to like, it doesn't read as un initially. Like
I see. Yeah.
I totally think you're like the title is really clever given all the complications around it. I wonder if there's a way to make those letters red.
Yeah. That's, yeah. I was also considering when you said that if I could change the font to make of the parentheses to make it, I see it looks kind of like a C and a D right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, I can fool around with either making it red or changing the font of the parentheses to make them more parenthesis-like. That's, yeah, a great point. Thank you, Crystal.
And in terms of accessibility, red is like the worst go-to given how much green there is on this, but you know what I mean. So
Yeah, totally.
take it from there. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I am noticing the time. It is 6:31, so I'm happy to make these edits, and then also just send the Canva version over to anyone who wants it. But I think maybe we should wrap up the meeting. I know I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Should we? Do I have to motion to approve the minutes from last month, or is that just? Okay.
Yeah, I'll motion to approve last month's meeting minutes. July 7th.
Anyone second that?
Seconded.
Awesome. All right. I will do a roll call. Leah Grossman.
Yes.
Allison Bernard.
He actually is does not get to
sorry.
vote.
I'm not a voter.
Oh, my apologies. Tori Antonino.
Yes.
Michael Hendricks.
Yes.
Luca Choli.
Approve.
Vanessa Bukili.
Approve.
Calla Taylor, I approve. Did I miss anyone?
Yeah, I approve.
Oh, sorry about that, Joelle.
And David too. David can vote.
Oh, and David.
I approve.
So that passes. And then I think we're just looking for a motion to adjourn, and we should be all set.
No, we're not. Calla, you have been such a wonderful asset to this committee. We are going to miss you. We wish you the best at college. You're great. And your chairpersonship of this meeting was like masterclass, really amazing. Just so thank you so much for what you've done and for being here. So thanks.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been really amazing to work with all of you some of you for the past 3 years. Some of you I'm just meeting today for the first time. But yeah, thank you all so much. And I hopefully can join meetings as a visitor in the future.
Thank you so much, Calla.
I agree. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And good luck on your next chapter. Let us know
Thank
how you're
you.
doing from time to time.
Totally. Thank you so much. On that note,
motion to adjourn. All right, fine.
Seconded.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Calla.
Everybody.
Bye.
Thank
See
you.
you, everyone.
Bye.